Parenteral Nutrition, and you can see our standard work combination sheet. And we will be speaking to a tap time of 20 minutes as well. So this is our team. On the far right is Wanda Atchison, and Terry Feld, and Yun Lai, and Sharon Griffin, and myself, the team lead, and Wanda was sub-team lead for this project. And AKA, we're known as Yun's agents. So, our mistake-proofing project form, just to frame it for you, the reason that this project was chosen was that it was being studied and to look at the high risk of making errors on TPN orders, so that patients going through the project, through getting their TPN mixtures, making sure that it was matched to their blood work. So there wasn't a lot of errors being made, but there was high risk for it, and that's why it was chosen. So our goal, of course, was to accomplish 0 defects in the process. Our process flow really looked at from the time a order was received into the pharmacy from the lab, and to take it through right to the time of delivery. So that was our process flow. And the current situation was that really looking at, it was identified that the tech and the pharmacists working in the project of calculating and mixing were having errors created, or the potential for errors, because of, again, lack of standard work in both of their processes. They were having to multitask in an environment and getting lots of interruptions while working in the process. And there were lots of training differences in between both techs and pharmacists, depending where they were going to school. So they were getting to the end product the same way, but there was variance in how they got there. So we really want to acknowledge at this point that the pharmacy staff place incredible successive and self-checks in amongst their processes, even before the team got there. So we really want to acknowledge them for that. So the errors that were thought to, again, be made were mostly around the calculation and labeling and transcription. So that's where our project focused. And
Lisa?
yes?
It's Michelle the Herb Bassett. I'm just wondering, are you further from the speakerphone? The first presentation I could hear quite well, and I can barely hear you now.
Okay, is that better?
Way better.
Okay, sorry, thank you for that. Our mistake-proofing workshop assignment sheet showed when we started a mistake-proofing level of 4. And as you'll see through the presentation, we were able to reduce it to 0 defects and achieving a level of 6. So we'll hand it over to Wanda.
Good morning, it's Wanda Atchison. So this was our pre-Kaizen value stream map, and you can see that it takes us from the very beginning of the process, which was when they received the blood work in the pharmacy. Then the pharmacist then reviewed the blood work, made contact with the internist, and started their calculations. All the calculations and paperwork were done manually, and when they had completed their task of doing the calculations, paperwork, printing and cutting the labels, then they left this all for the pharmacy techs to pick up when they were ready to do the TPN. When the pharmacy tech picked up the orders and paperwork, they then mixed the TPN. Once that was completed, the finished TPN bags, then waited for the pharmacist to check and confirm that the correct amounts, additive amounts were there. They attached the labels to the solution bags. They were kitted with lipids to be delivered to the unit. And during our observations, as you can note, there was a number of starbursts or opportunities also to work with this process to see if we could get the defects down to 0. This is some of our PQA data. This is the actual errors that we did observe during the process. There were 8 errors in total that we observed, and they were, the most of them were in transcription, 5 in transcription, 1 in labeling, 1 in calculations, and 1 in inventory, which was really due to some frozen product. As well as observing, we also had look through the 2012 TPN incident reports to get some further data, but it was very difficult to get accurate data from these just because of incomplete forms. But we did note that there were 4 medication errors within that time, 2 calculation, 2 labeling, and 2 other, whatever they might be. The mistake proofing target progress, this is our initial one, and so really we just want to focus on the targets here. We wanted to, we had a target of 0 errors during the process, and there was no standard work, as Lisa mentioned, so we wanted to make sure that there was standard work for the tech mixing process. And also, as she had mentioned, there was many interruptions with the pharmacist, and we wanted to see if we could get that to 0 as well. And really, that was the primary focus of our project, so no targets for any of these other areas. This is a picture of one of the pharmacists doing their manual calculations, pre-Kaizen, and filling in her paperwork. After we did our pre-Kaizen value stream map, we then took an idea board to the pharmacy area and requested their help. So the mistake proofing team met with the pharmacy staff and asked for their ideas as to how to address 4 of the problems that we had noted. These are 4 of the starbursts. And we did receive 5 ideas from the staff in these areas. So the first area that we decided to focus in was the problem was calculating TPN manually, and they felt that an electronic form that automatically calculated the TPN dosage would make a huge difference for them in the TPN dosage errors.
Hello, it's Terry Field. The next step, this is a sample of the TPN form that the pharmacists were using to make their calculations on. They were ordering everything, entering everything manually, and then on a pocket-sized calculator, doing all the extensions and doing a self-check, doing everything twice to ensure that they were calculating it properly. Then in the second column, the second set of numbers, they add everything up at the bottom again, twice to make sure that the calculations are correct. And all the time while doing this, they're answering the telephone, they're going to the walk-up window, many interruptions. This particular form, if you'll notice, there's a highlight at the top where the dextrose 10%. There's 2 different base solutions that they use in the pharmacy. One is the 10% and one is the 25%. So as a visual, they had a yellow form that they knew they were using the correct form for the 10% base. They had a pink form that they knew then was for the 25% base solution. After the calculations were all done, they then had to figure out the total volume of the TPN solution so that they could then figure out the dispensing rate. The dispensing rate was very important. The solution had to be finished before the 12-hour window because there was a total of 24 hours and the TPN dispensing could not go past the 24-hour rate. These are samples of the labels that they were using in the pharmacy. Sorry, it's difficult to see. The very top label is just a blank label that they print information out in the pharmacy. The second and fourth labels are the labels that would go on the TPN bag. Now, these we found were where most of the transcription errors were occurring. So if you'll notice on the form, everything that's on the smaller labels, when they entered it, they had to enter it across, but when you go back to the order form, when they're working, they're going up and down. So it was entered in 2 different ways, so there was some confusion there, and so it kind of explained some of the errors. And then the third label is actually the lipid label, and it was just a stock label that they would just take off the roll and put onto the lipids bag. So what we did is, this is a computerized version of their form. So using Excel, all I did was mirror image their existing form, but in Excel, working with Excel, knowing that you can put in formulas that will then do the calculations for you. And so that's what I did, or that's what we did, and then showed it to the pharmacy staff. If you'll notice also, as a part of Excel, at the bottom where we have it circled off, Excel has the ability, when you enter items into one field, you have the ability then that you can take that, or that information can be populated onto another form just by putting in the correct formula. So what we also did then was, if the transcription errors were happening on the TPN label, why could we not then create a label that would print automatically and totally eliminate the transcriptions? So then this spreadsheet was created and tested. The pharmacy staff went through it and were very skeptical. They checked and they double checked, but after they went through and looked at it and they entered the numbers and could see that this actually works. They verified that there was no mistakes being carried forward, and then there was some rework. Again, as a part of eliminating the transfer error, it was decided that one order form, one order only. So the second and third columns were removed, and just some rework was done that the pharmacist had requested. Also for the label, at this point I was told that we couldn't print the label the way that it was formatted because of how the labels come off the roll on the pharmacy printer. So then I took all the information and turned it sideways on Excel. I hope there's an easier way because I spent a little time on it, but I was persistent. And then the next spreadsheet here, you can see then is a refined, a modified version of the last one. And there were some parameters that they were asked again, and for mistake proofing. So you'll see at the top one, for instance, the other form did not have the patient's name on it. They would either have it on the label or they would write it on. So in this screen, they asked to have the patient's name, a reason for it, and then some of the different fields that they automatically would enter, and they would also populate at the same time onto the label on the other page. Now, in the first column, where the 10, 110 is entered, there are fields on this spreadsheet that are locked, meaning that there are formulas in there, but the formulas are locked, so the formulas cannot be changed. So the pharmacist, any field that is yellow are fields that are unlocked that information can be entered into. As the information is entered, the first 10, the spreadsheet automatically does the calculation and fills it into the second column. It's all auto-summed at the bottom where it says for the total volume, and then it is divided by the administration interval, or the 12 hours, and then a couple of points added in just to ensure that the TPN is totally dispensed before the 12-hour window. And then the bottom is the lipids, which is this always dispensed over a 24-hour period. So the next step is the pharmacist then asked if we can have a label that's specific to the TPN bag that has the patient's name on it. Can we also have a lipids label that has the patient's name on it? Sure, why not? So we added another label that still at this point I was still struggling with getting to print, and Leanne will talk more about that. This particular form, then another safety measure was put in. The pharmacist asked if we could include the bed number on the TPN label. So that was added, and again it carried forward sorry, it's difficult to see, but it is also on the label, so another field was entered in there. And then this one, okay, the last one is the nutritionist has now become involved in the TPN process, and one more field was asked for. So all of the base solutions start at 1,000 mils, and any nutrition supplements that are added to the bags had to be factored in. So the nutritionist was asking to have a field where we could remove some of the base solution first. So where you see a line where there's 700 mil and then a new withdraw 300 mil, So the default in that field is automatically 1,000 mil. Any number that they put in at 800, it'll automatically tell the tech how many mils to withdraw. It's all factored into the to the bottom as well. So same, and the labels. And there is a pharmacist working on the new form.
They're all fictitious names too, by the way, just so you know we're not breaching confidentiality.
Hi, my name's Jan Lai, and I'm going to talk about the standard work here. We found that with the TPN orders, they were not ordered, there was no standard work. Lots of people didn't know that the TPNs had to be ordered before 12, before they would get it. So we had to create a standard of work so that obtaining the TPN order was met. Then when we talked about, Terry talked about the TPN order forms, we had to create a standard of work so that the forms would be used identical and there was no deviation, so that we end up with the form used and the printing done properly. So we created a how to do an easy spreadsheet or an easy instruction how to print the forms, the TPN forms, play-by-play, how to do it, and you notice that we have to select the right printer because there's a lot of printers that they have to select, and that is the end result, is the final of the TPN nutrition chart. That would be the final print, how it would look, of course with the right color, yellow or pink. Now, to print the labels, it was a tougher task to print the labels, and we felt that printing the labels was a make or break point of this procedure, because if you have the TPN form printed, you can't print the labels, you're still going to make the errors. So finally, Terry is giving me the labels to fix, and I spent a lot of time on it, and I got it to work. Just by setting the boundaries and wasting about a half roll of the labels. But yeah, and then we came up with standard procedure on how to print the labels, and that's the final result of the labels. And it actually works out very well. And we created a standard of work for the TPN mixing because it was.
Okay, and I'm Sharon Griffin. So, in the end, our project, what we chose to focus on for the most part was the development of the electronic form, because that eliminated both the calculations and the transcription errors. We only had the opportunity, there was no TPN between April and August, so we were lucky that we got TPN prior, so we could do, so we only have done one post-implementation observation, two, sorry. Oh, okay. And our defect rate was 0 post-implementation. We did develop the standard work with pharmacy for the electronic form, and pharmacy themselves have taken it upon themselves with the quality improvement enthusiasm to develop the work for text to mix, for pharmacy to check, and for the printing. Our goal was to leave nothing left to hand over at the end, so essentially we've accomplished that. They're underway to the standard work of the multiple skills training checklists, and that is all that is left to carry over, and we have assigned an audit lead. Our workshop summary is that we want to aim for transcription defects to 0, and we have accomplished that, and we think that will be sustained. We've realized that some work is safer with automation, and definitely math is one that's best left to the machines, not the humans. It was helpful to us that 5S train the trainer was going on, so that helped with our improvement process. And we've really learned that long-standing issues can be addressed if you have dedicated time to focus on them. And we recognize there's a number of improvements, but we needed to narrow the scope to what we could achieve in this time frame, and that there's always ongoing continuous improvement, and pharmacy is well on the way with that, with their motivation. And in conclusion, I'd like to thank all the pharmacy staff because they were very helpful sharing their ideas. Lori Friesen, the process owner, John Piggott, who would be the sponsor, Our team members, Terry, you're brilliant for that form. If we had someone like her on every project, our lives would all be easier. And Jan as well for your technological brilliance. Virginia Mason for helping us out in our learning, JBA. Anton, who is our KPO support, Dietary for their input as well, and to the 5S team.